Yeah, I think shooting tethered. Actually, I think the opposite is also true. Maybe this is a good way would be to shoot tethered, because that will elevate you 100%. But if you're used to checking like your camera constantly when you're shooting, try shooting without looking at it. Like see what would happen. Like you're probably better than you think you are. I sometimes tell the story of at one point when I was coming up. This is still back in the film days. I made the mistake of handing the makeup artist my light meter, and we were on a subway, and she put it down, and we got off in a rush, and then we went to shoot. And I was like, "Where's that light meter?" And she was like, "Huh?" And so I lost my light meter, and I was broke young photographer, and I shot for like 2-3 months with no light meter, but I was using flash. I knew, and this is before TTL, I just trusted my gut. I'm like, I've been using these flashes for many years. I know it's 5.6 when I put it here, and I was mostly right. I was able to pull off doing the shoots without the light meter. Not that I wanted to not have a light meter, but it allowed me to realize I'm better than I think I am. So kind of like looking back at your work, like we talked about, this also does that for you. Go out and shoot. Don't look at the screen. Turn it off. Turn off the preview. See if you're nailing it without doing it. Give yourself that confidence that you are. I mean, don't do it on an important job that you have to get it, right? But stop looking, because I think that's the other thing, right? We sometimes, especially when we are tethered, or, sometimes people just go like this, right? They call it chimping, they call it. We can lose our flow by looking at the images too much. So that helps you gain confidence by training yourself not to look constantly. My normal philosophy is I do test shots at the beginning and get it to where I want it tethered, and then I don't look. Like I never look at the review on my camera until I've got what I feel like I got the shot. Then I turn around and we look at them together. I feel that works really well because tethering can have that trap, just like the back of the camera, where you will keep looking at it, and your subject will too if you're shooting a subject.
Yeah, exactly. It's I came up with this little sort of personal challenge of, again, to do with street photography, because I like to do a little bit of street photography just as a as a pastime, basically. And that's basically to say, like, okay, I'm going to turn the screen on the back of the camera off, and I'm just going to go out and I'm going to shoot just for a couple of hours or something. And then when I come home, I'm going to look at the images and see how many actually, amounted to anything, because that could be quite surprising something. But then you really have to just trust your gut instinct, And in many ways, of course, it's much more like shooting film, because you really didn't have a way to review your images back then,
Exactly. Yeah. And I used to have this, before Leica made a rangefinder digital, Epson did of all people. And it actually had a screen that could fold back so you could hide it. I think some cameras do this now, but this is the first camera that did this. So I would walk around with it with the screen closed. It didn't have a electronic viewfinder. So it literally was like shooting film. You'd walk around and it had like a little meter inside, and I would point it at the ground to get my meter, and I'd walk around. And it got me better at street photography, because I always felt like I was missing shots because I was too worried about getting everything perfect. And I wanted to train myself not to think about that, like to just be ready, using like hyperfocal and kind of presetting my exposure, and just learning that, like, okay, I'm at this exposure. Ooh, I walked into the sun. Let's close down a little bit. I walked into the shade. Let's, open up. And you just start to get a feel for it and to see, and you can get good at it. And just like any kind of photography or anything you do, you will get used to it. And having that, it helps with your confidence overall. And the more confident you are, not like confident like, yeah, I'm the best, but confident on set that you're not thinking about the technology, will help you be a better photographer, because you can focus on the shot.
Yeah, exactly. That's always, I think that's just like, playing an instrument. You don't really want to think of the physical act of playing the instrument. You really want to be able to let it flow and just think about the music that you're creating. If every time you change the chord on the guitar, if you had to think like, okay, where do my fingers go? What's the shape? Then of course you're spending too much time thinking about these aspects and you're kind of forgetting about the music. And it's exactly the same.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're right. It's exactly the same in photography. And whether it's, you can go to an extreme and basically just tape off the screen on the back of the camera or turn it off. Or you can basically just say, like, okay, well, today I'm going to go out and I'm going to set my, preset to black and white. And I'm only going to shoot black and white, and I'm only going to shoot JPEG, so that I don't have the ability of like fuffing around with it too much in post afterwards. So really it's about, creating the end product in camera rather than relying on post-processing, and I find that's quite fun. I have a little Fuji V series camera.
Nice.
And
those little Fuji's great.
Yeah, they're great. They're fantastic for street photography. you can make your own little presets, your own little color presets, or there's an app which I forget what it's called now, where people basically share their own little color recipes, so they make it their own little film presets or whatever, and you can then play around with the settings and program it in yourself, and then try different things, which is kind of cool, a bit nerdy, but it's
kind of fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good
No,
fun.
I love stuff like that. Making everything your own is really, I think, the key, which maybe is another thing to, right? If you are somebody who is using presets, for instance, I actually just had this question recently on a live stream where people are like, oh, what about, have you used these types of presets or whatever? And I have. I mean, I've used presets, whatever. But in the end, what makes us unique oftentimes is our own vision. So get presets from other people, look at the stuff that manufacturers give you, but then start creating your own. Say, can I make a black and white preset that I like better than this one? And why do I like it better? One that works better with the way I shoot, because, it needs to work for you, right? Something that, like, my presets might not work for you because you don't shoot the way I do. And if you have a fairly consistent style, you'll start to realize that even though your images look different, you do things the same. You shoot within the same tonal ranges. It's just the way we are. We build style, and my presets work for me. Like, I can put my black and white presets on most of my images and they'll work totally fine. They might not work for you. So you want to create your own. But if you don't know where to start, right? You can get some prepackaged ones, see what they do, then break them down a little bit. That might be a good thing to mess with if you've been doing that. Maybe think about what you love about them. It's so easy just to press the button, yes, but maybe spend an hour and figure out your own presets that you can just press the button and it's yours.
Exactly, and it's really easy to do. Like, for instance, in Lightroom, it's super simple. You just you apply a preset, and you can see all the settings, in the sidebar, and so you can start fiddling around with it, adjusting things. So maybe you think okay, well, that's going a little too crazy, but worth lifting the shadows. Maybe we'll bring it down a little bit, whatever. Or you might want to give it a more filmic look and race it. Who knows? Whatever your thing is,
right.
And you can start to dial things in to the point where it works for your own personal sensitivities. That's the thing, and then you can take that as maybe as a foundation to create your own style, as you said. That's always a good way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what most of us want, is to create something that's ours, right? That's unique to us. We love other people's work and we might want to emulate them on some level, but ultimately you want your own work, right? The thing that's inside you want to put it out there. So, all the things we're talking about, like giving yourself goals and watching other people, taking advice from people, that all, you take the pieces of it, then that becomes your style that you then build from. And I think if you are going with technology, it's a good idea to use it to your advantage. Like, take what it does auto, right? But then, I say auto like a preset, but then modify it for yourself. Like, really start to dig in. If you're used to using the camera a certain way, go in there and see, what is this preset in the camera? What is this color thing, or what is the standard mode versus the portrait mode, or whatever they call them in cameras these days, as far as the colors and the saturation and stuff. A lot of cameras allow you to mess with that stuff. So, which is kind of what, I guess, when you're talking about the Fuji, I know in my Nikons, I can go in there and go, no, more contrast when I do this mode or less this. And you can start to find something that works for you, And I think that's ultimately what we want to do. So start messing with that stuff if you haven't yet. It's easy enough if you already have a camera. Most of them allow you to do it. Just see, if you're always adding contrast and saturation in post, maybe dial that into the camera in the settings. You can always roll it back, if it's shooting raw anyways. It just works for the JPEG. So you can just see what you're getting.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.